Hello everybody, thanks for watching. As many of you do know, my wife is Filipina, and she first came to the United States back in 1985, and she's been a U.S. citizen for a long time. And of course she went through the naturalization process, and back in the day they used to have 100 questions they wanted you to study and know the answer to, basically. And they wanted you to, they'd ask you 10 questions. I was actually there with her when they asked her the questions. And if you got 6 right, my wife got all 10 right, but if you got 6 right, you went by that phase and completed the rest of the process for being a U.S. citizen. It had been that way forever. And then during the first Trump administration, they raised the number of possible questions to 200 questions. They ask you 20, and if you got 12 right, you got your citizenship. And that's changed. I think they got like 500 questions now, and I think they're going to ask you like 50, and you got to get 30 of them. 30 or 35, I think it's 30 you got to get right to get your citizenship. So Trump's making it a little harder on them as far as taking that test to get your citizenship. It means a lot to me because I got 2 nieces that in the last year got their citizenships, and I have some great nieces and nephews who are going to be getting theirs. The biggest other change was it used to be like $200 you had to pay to get your citizenship. And now, depending on what country you're from, it's going to be like almost $1,000. And there's the whole thing has changed, how long you can have a legal resident alien card. It used to be if you got a resident alien card, you could just live in this country as a resident alien all your life, retire, go on Social Security and all that. Well, that's not the case anymore. Nowadays, resident alien cards are not for a lifetime. You got a certain number of years. You either got to renew it or whatever to stay in the country. And they basically want you to get your citizenship. They don't want you living in this country indefinitely as a resident alien, like was the case with a lot of people. A lot of the foreign-born wives of military never got a U.S. citizen. They just stayed a resident alien all their lives. Now, as part of the immigration, the naturalization process, they used to just do a simple background check, and if you didn't come back with any felonies, you were good to go. Well, now they're doing a lot more complete check than just running you on the FBI database. They're also looking at state and local databases. And a long time ago, back in the 60s, they quit sending somebody out to investigate you. They used to send people out when you wanted to be a U.S. citizen who would come into your community and talk to people about you. They talk to people from your church, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your children's friends, and all this to make sure if you become a U.S. citizen, you weren't going to be a problem. And that stopped, I think, in the early 60s, but now that's coming back. Trump's putting that back. So they're going to start checking people out. Now, it's not going to be everybody. It's going to be a case-by-case basis. And I think it's not for military or other people's, like brides, okay? They married a guy, came to this country, and that type of thing. No. It's people that immigrated under different circumstances primarily. Like where whole families came, the asylum seekers, a lot of people just won the lottery. They have a lottery of people who apply for U.S. citizenship or the possibility to get naturalized. Because they have people who come here on long-term tourist visas, if you can believe that, yeah. And people who come here on work visas, long-term. And these people can apply and get put into a pot where a certain number of them are randomly selected every year for citizenship. Those types of people are the ones that are going to have the more in-depth investigations now, not only in this country, but in their country of origin. Because when you come here on a work visa, say, you know, the investigation that your country of origin does is kind of light, okay? It's basically, are you wanted for a felony type offense? If you're not that, then you're pretty much eligible for entry into the country under a work visa or a tourist visa. In most cases, it depends on the country, but in most cases that's true. And they're talking about tightening up other things as well. Things that aren't fiancé visas, or you're married coming to join your spouse here in this country. That kind of thing is going to remain unchanged, but everything else is going to be more scrutinized. I haven't really found a lot of information out, not on news programs, not on the internet. So it took some research to find all this out. But yeah, they're changing the system. They're changing the law, especially in regards to the investigations that they're going to start doing. So, because we've had a lot of people get through the cracks immigrating. Even one particular congresswoman from Somalia that ended up here under dubious circumstances and ended up being a U.S. citizen, then marrying her brother and bringing him to the country. Funny how all that worked, right? That's the kind of stuff they're looking for. That's it for today. Take care. Bye-bye.